Beneath the quiet hush of a summer meadow, under layers of soil speckled with roots and dew-soft earth, there lives a civilization so ancient, so vast that it hums with the rhythm of a secret world. You could walk over it 1,000 times and never know it's there. You could lie down in the grass and feel the warm pulse of the sun on your skin, never realizing that just inches below, a republic is awake, humming, building, whispering. This is the hidden empire of ants, the tiny architects of the underworld, whose lives are stitched into the fabric of the earth itself. If you were to shrink just for a moment to the size of a grain of rice, small enough to step through the archway of a tunnel carved in clay, you would find yourself in a place that feels older than memory. Cool corridors wind in spirals and loops, connecting chambers lined with smooth walls. In the nursery, eggs glisten like pearls on a velvet mat. In the fungus gardens, workers tend their crop with soft mandibles, cultivating mushrooms the way a farmer tends corn. In the darkest depths, a queen rests, immense and glistening, her body pulsing with life as she gives birth to the future, one egg at a time. We often imagine ants as mindless marchers, endlessly scurrying across pavement in search of crumbs. But within the colony there's an intelligence not of individuals, but of the whole, a wisdom that emerges not from one but from many. Like a murmuration of starlings or the ripples on a pond, the ant colony moves with a kind of quiet intuition, a collective mind made of thousands of tiny bodies. They speak not with words but with scent. A tap of the antenna, a trace of chemical perfume, and the message is sent. This way to food, danger ahead, carry the fallen home. Scientists call this form of communication pheromone signalling, but to the ants, it is as natural as breath. A forager might discover a fallen fruit half a field away, and with a flick of her body she paints a scented trail back to the nest. Others follow, reinforcing the signal with each pass, until a path blooms like a living ribbon across the landscape. By evening the fruit is gone, carried away in bits and pieces, each one transported by mandibles no bigger than a grain of sand, and this is only the beginning. Ants are more than foragers. They are farmers, warriors, engineers, herders and healers. In the tropics, the leafcutter ants march in long green parades, snipping slices of leaf with surgical precision. But they don't eat the leaves. They feed them to their fungus gardens, cultivating a food source too delicate to survive without them. In this delicate partnership, ant and fungus are bound together in mutual survival, each nourishing the other in a loop as old as rain. In the deserts of Africa, the Saharan silver ant wears a coat of shimmering hair, tiny mirrors that reflect the harsh sun, keeping it cool enough to run in the heat of the day, when even predators must rest. It darts across the burning sand with legs that barely touch the ground, timing its hunts between the shadows of death and the reach of the sun. And deep in the jungles of South America, there are ants who herd aphids like cattle, stroking them gently to coax out droplets of honeydew, sweet, nourishing nectar. In return, they protect their tiny livestock from predators, fighting off invaders with fierce jaws and bodies that move like living armour. Even here in the world of the minuscule, there are echoes of our own history. Domestication, agriculture, economy, defence. The parallels are uncanny. Not because ants are like humans, but because we perhaps are more like ants than we dare to imagine. But what is a colony, really? It is not the queen, though she is the heart, the womb, the origin. It is not the workers, though they build the tunnels, nurse the young and defend the gates. A colony is something more ethereal, a pattern, a pulse, a song sung by thousands of voices in harmony. It is a system where no one knows the full design, yet together they create cathedrals of earth and rhythm and order, tunnels that breathe, chambers that store seeds through winter, ventilation shafts that circulate air with precision. It is as though the dirt itself is alive, shaped by tiny wills into something greater than the sum of its parts. In some species, like the Argentine ants, colonies become so large that they span entire continents. One supercolony stretches from Italy to Spain, another along the California coast. Though separated by the mountains and oceans, these ants recognize each other as kin. They do not fight. They share resources. They are one extended family, a genetic ocean washing across landscapes in unending cooperation. Imagine, if you will, a city the size of a country. Now imagine it underground, made not of concrete but of instinct and scent. That is the scale at which ants operate. And yet, for all their scale and structure, ants are not invincible. In the damp shadows of the rainforest there exists a fungus, Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, whose soles drift through the air like silent hunters. When a spore lands on an ant's body, it creeps inside, taking root in the brain. It begins to whisper chemical suggestions: climb, grip, wait. The ant, no longer its own, ascends a stalk and locks its jaws into a leaf's underside. There it dies, and from its head the fungus blooms, a stalk rises, more spores are released, and the cycle begins again. It is a haunting moment, one of nature's strangest. But even here the colony has a countermeasure. Other ants, sensing the infection, carry the sick away from the nest. They exile them, sometimes they destroy them, they sacrifice the few to protect the many. It is not cruelty, it is survival, written into their bones. And perhaps this is the most remarkable thing, that ants, so small and so quiet, have endured for over 100 million years. They were here before the dinosaurs vanished, before flowers bloomed in their modern form. They have seen the earth change, from swampy carbon jungles to icy glaciations to the rise of humans. And through it all, they've kept building, kept farming, kept whispering in scents and soil. There is something profoundly comforting about their persistence, about the way they work without reward, live without waste, and move through the world with a purpose larger than themselves. Ants don't worry about tomorrow. They don't seek applause. They simply do what must be done, again and again, as they have for eons. If you were to press your ear to the ground on a quiet evening, perhaps under a willow tree where the wind speaks softly, you might imagine the faintest rustle beneath the soil. Not a sound exactly, but a feeling, a tickle of motion, the sigh of a tunnel being shaped by 100 patient legs, the breath of a kingdom that never sleeps. And if you close your eyes, just for a moment, you might picture it. The glow of the fungus chambers, the glint of dew on an egg, the shadow of a queen shifting in her chamber. You might feel somehow that the world is deeper than it seems, that beneath the roots and rocks there is a map of life written in silence. The ants are still there, even now, carrying seeds, tending their gardens, keeping watch over the cradle of their republic. And as we rest above, blanketed by stars and grass and time, their secret lives go on, quietly, beautifully, endlessly. And so the earth breathes from above and below, a chorus of soil and scent, of roots and whispers, in the secret rhythm of a kingdom beneath our feet. If you were to hold a handful of forest soil in your palm, you'd see only crumbs of earth, a scattering of broken leaves, and perhaps a single wandering ant making its way across your skin. But in truth, that handful contains an entire living infrastructure, sculpted, tended, and maintained by the tireless work of ant societies. They are not just residents of the soil, they are its architects. Every tunnel they carve, every grain they move, every leaf they drag underground changes the land itself, shaping the very breath of the forest. In the tangled understory where light filters down in golden threads and the air smells of moss and rain, ants move like whispers between roots and fallen logs. Their steps may be small, but their touch is deep. When they dig, they stir the soil, loosening it, letting water seep in and roots push through. Their tunnels form natural irrigation lines. They carry seeds, bury them, forget them, and in forgetting, they plant the next generation of trees. In some forests, nearly a third of all new saplings begin their lives in the forgotten chambers of ants. It's a quiet kind of farming, accidental perhaps, but profoundly essential. The messer ants, those patient grain harvesters of dry grasslands, gather seeds not for planting but for storage. Yet many are never eaten. Some fall beneath the earth and sprout in the safety of those underground vaults. The forest grows not just despite the ants, but because of them. And then there are the acacia ants, the warriors of the thorn tree. High in the dry savannas of Africa, the whistling acacia tree offers its hollow thorns and sugary nectar to a small but ferocious guardian. The ants take up residence inside the tree's barbed shelter, feeding on its nectar glands and nesting in its woody hollows. In return, they patrol its branches like sentries, driving off leaf-eating insects and even attacking large herbivores that dare to nibble its leaves. A giraffe's tongue may pause mid-meal, flicking away the sting of an unexpected swarm. In this alliance, tree and ant live in deep partnership, one offering shelter and sweetness, the other offering defense and devotion. It's not affection, of course, not love, but there is a kind of loyalty here, a chemical agreement written not in vows but in molecules. The ant and the tree need each other, and in that need they thrive. Not all ant relationships are so balanced. Some ants have learned to exploit their world in clever ways, weaving themselves into the lives of others like silent puppeteers. Take the ants of the genus Myrmellachista, who nest high in the rainforest canopy. They live inside delicate plants called cecropia, feeding on the sugary substances the tree produces. But they don't just take, they shape the behavior of the plant itself. Their presence affects the way the plant grows, where it puts out leaves, how it defends itself. In a sense, the ants become part of the plant's body, an invisible nervous system guiding its choices. And it's not only plants they manipulate. Some ants herd and protect aphids, as you've heard before, tiny insects that produce sweet droplets of honeydew. The ants stroke the aphids gently with their antennae, coaxing out this sugary syrup. In exchange, they protect them like livestock, sometimes even carrying them to new feeding grounds or building shelters around them. The aphids become not just food sources, but a kind of living crop, tended, guarded, harvested. But even this relationship is not always fair. Some ants bite the wings off young aphids so they can't fly away. Others keep them underground during winter, storing them like seeds. It's agriculture, yes, but with all the complications of control and dependence. The lines between partner and prisoner blur in the shadows of the nest. And yet, for all their manipulation, ants are also great caretakers of balance. In the rainforests of Central and South America, the army ants march like flowing rivers of legs and jaws, consuming nearly everything in their path. But they are not chaos. They are the forest's reset button. As they sweep through the underbrush, they flush out insects, spiders, small vertebrates, and decaying matter. Birds follow their raids, catching fleeing prey. The forest in turn responds. Population booms are checked. Diseased individuals are culled. The ecosystem breathes in again, cleared of clutter. And when the raid is over, the ants move on, never staying too long in one place, never taking more than the system can spare. In this way, ants are not destroyers, but caretakers of balance. Fierce, yes, but necessary. Every species has its role, its rhythm, its song, and together they keep the world spinning quietly beneath our feet. Some ants even serve as medics. The African Matabele ants, when returning from battle with termite soldiers, their natural foes, carry their wounded home. If an ant loses a leg or is bleeding from its joints, its sisters will lick the wounds, cleaning them with their saliva, which contains antimicrobial compounds. Studies show that this care significantly improves the survival of injured ants. In a world so small, where a single injury can be fatal, the act of tending to one another is profound. There is no ambulance, no hospital, only instinct and cooperation passed down through countless generations. And still, they help each other. Still, they choose not to leave a comrade behind. Even the structure of the nest itself becomes a tool for life. Some ants build their colonies high above the forest floor, weaving leaves together with silk produced by their larvae, creating suspended citadels that sway into the breeze. Weaver ants, with their rust-coloured bodies and astonishing teamwork, form chains of living bridges, holding leaves in place while their young glue the edges shut. They work in cadence, in synchrony, crafting homes that defy the laws of scale. Imagine hundreds of ants holding hands, jaws to feet, foot to antenna, stretching across gaps, supporting each other mid-air, trusting the strength of the group. There is something humbling about that kind of trust, something ancient and elegant, and all the while the colony breathes. It breathes through ventilation shafts dug at precise angles. It breathes through temperature-controlled chambers. It breathes through cycles of birth and death, foraging and rest. The ants themselves do not sleep as we do, not long, not deeply, but in short bursts, alternating between activity and pause. There is always someone awake, always someone watching the nest, tending the queen, guarding the brood. And in this endless rhythm, the colony remains alive, not as a collection of individuals, but as a single, pulsing being. If we think of cities as places where purpose meets place, then ant colonies are cities in the purest sense. They are designed with efficiency and elegance. Trash is taken far from the nursery to prevent disease. Corpses are stored in graveyards. Food is sorted. Young are raised in cycles, tended by specialized caretakers who clean them, feed them, and carry them from warm chambers to cool ones depending on their needs. And though the ants themselves know nothing of cities or systems, their instinct is architecture. Their bodies carry blueprints written not in lines, but in chemical codes and evolutionary memory. They do not build for beauty, they build for life. Even in fire-damaged lands, in places scorched by heat and hunger, the first signs of recovery often come with the ants. They tunnel back into the ash, breaking up the soil. They scavenge, they spread seeds, they clear the debris of death. Like quiet firefighters of the earth, they help the land breathe again. And in that breath, new life takes root. In many ways, they are the nervous system of the natural world, connecting soil to root, predator to prey, decay to renewal. Where ants thrive, ecosystems tend to follow. Where they vanish, silence falls in curious places. A quiet breakdown begins, and perhaps that's the most astonishing truth of all, that these tiny, tireless creatures, so often overlooked, are pillars holding up the entire living world. To lie in the grass and watch a single ant pass by is to witness a thread in a tapestry far older than any empire. To peer into a nest is to glimpse a civilization humming not with machines, but with instinct and purpose. And to know that they are still here, still farming, still fighting, still building, is to feel somehow that life persists in the softest, smallest places. Even the stars overhead seem to nod at this quiet truth. That beneath our cities and stories, beneath the drums of progress and the hush of sleep, the ants remain, carving order out of chaos, shaping the land grain by grain, shadow by shadow. And so the soil remembers, not in words but in tunnels and scent, the soft legacy of those who shape the world from below. If you were to follow an ant's path through the forest, across bark and stone, over leaves laced with dew, you'd find no signposts, no audible words, no gestures like ours. And yet each step it takes, each turn it makes, is guided by something deeper, something older. A silent conversation fills the air, stitched together not by sound or sight, but by scent, chemical trails that whisper, beckon, warn and guide. Ants speak in pheromones, and though we cannot hear this language with ears or eyes, the forest listens, and the colony responds. One ant might find a piece of food, a seed, a crumb, a fallen insect, and with her tiny body she writes a message behind her, an invisible line of molecules drawn along the earth. This trail is her message to the others. Come, follow, help me bring this home, and they do. One by one, her sisters read her trail with their antennae, those delicate waving limbs alive with sensitivity. They follow her scent the way we might follow a memory, not in straight lines, but in pulses of recognition. The more ants that follow, the stronger the trail becomes, as if the colony itself is amplifying the signal, agreeing with her choice. It's a kind of voting, but done not with hands raised, but with steps taken. If the food is rich, the path becomes a highway. If it is poor, the scent fades and the idea is forgotten. In this way, the colony makes decisions not through discussion, but through scent and consensus, an elegant dance of chemistry and motion. Some trails warn of danger, acidic bursts left behind after a confrontation, the bitter residue of alarm. Others are laced with calm, with familiarity, mapping the daily roads from nest to food to nest again. There is even a pheromone for death, a quiet, mournful signal that tells the others, this one is gone. When an ant dies, her body begins to release this chemical cue, and her sisters carry her away, gently, respectfully, to the refuse pile outside the colony. In some species, they even bury their dead in small chambers, like undertakers of the miniature world. No ceremony, no tears, but something like grace. It's hard to imagine such complexity in creatures so small, so far from us in form, and yet their language, built on scent and instinct, is as nuanced as any spoken tongue. A leafcutter ant doesn't simply know to cut leaves. She is tuned to her task by scent, by the hum of the nest, by the pheromonal suggestion passed between workers. She knows when the fungus is hungry. She knows which leaves are too toxic for the garden. She adjusts her work not because she thinks in words, but because she feels the colony's needs as if they were her own. It is as though the colony itself is a mind, not seated in one body, but scattered across thousands. Scientists have called this a superorganism, a being made up of many, where each part is alive but none can live alone. The queen does not rule in the way a monarch might. She is not commanding her daughters. It is the womb, the heartbeat, the mother. But it is the workers who make the daily decisions, who feel the weather, taste the soil, track the sun. Their coordination arises not from orders, but from local interactions. One ant brushing antennae with another, one passing on a scent that changes the course of the next. It's as if the colony thinks without thinking, moves without a brain, yet still manages to learn, adapt, and survive. Some ants, when challenged with obstacles in a maze, can collectively find the shortest route to a food source. Others will change their foraging patterns if a previous trail becomes dangerous. In these responses, we glimpse something remarkable, a kind of distributed intelligence, a wisdom born of numbers, and this wisdom is not static. Ant colonies grow, change, forget, and remember. They shift their behaviour with the seasons, with age, with pressure from rival colonies. Some even practice a kind of social pruning. When the colony becomes too large for its environment, workers may quietly stop feeding certain larvae or cease grooming older ants. There is no malice in it, no conscious cruelty. It is simply the colony's way of balancing itself, keeping its rhythm. Like a forest thinning its own branches after a long drought, the colony preserves what it can. Among the most haunting expressions of ant communication is the fire ant's response to flood. In times of heavy rain, when the soil becomes waterlogged and the nest fills with rising water, fire ants do not scatter. Instead, they gather. They cling to one another, locking legs and jaws, weaving a living raft. Thousands of bodies float as one, holding the queen and the brood at the centre, safe and dry. The raft can survive for days, drifting on the surface of the flood, steering itself with rudimentary motions, adjusting as needed. If a wave threatens, the outer ants brace against it. If the sun grows too hot, they shift their shape, curling around the vulnerable. It is a living, breathing ship, made not of wood or sail, but of instinct and cooperation, and not a single ant commands it. The decision to raft is born of scent, a pressure, of touch, a silent agreement in the face of danger. It is perhaps the closest nature comes to collective prayer, a leap of trust into each other. And still, they continue to surprise us. In laboratories and forests, scientists have watched ants make choices that seem to defy expectation. They can remember routes taken days ago. They can count steps, not as we do with numbers, but with internal pacing, using their legs as rhythmic guides. In one experiment, ants with longer legs took longer strides and overshot their destination. Those with shortened legs fell short. They do not use maps, they use their own movement, a biological metronome. And when visual cues are added, such as the position of the sun or the angle of polarized light, their orientation becomes even more precise. It is as if they carry a compass in their skin. Communication in ants is not limited to scent alone. They use vibration, drumming their bodies against the walls of the nest, sending signals through the soil like seismic whispers. This form of ant drumming is used in various species to signal distress, to rally others, or to mark territory. Some ants stridulate, rubbing parts of their exoskeleton together like crickets. producing high-pitched noises that can be picked up by others in the colony. Even their footsteps can be meaningful. In dense nests, ants use their tread to sense how crowded an area is, adjusting their path to avoid congestion. Imagine that, a traffic system based not on signs, but on touch and sound and scent, running smoother than most of our highways. And yet despite all this sensory complexity, there is no central conductor, no leader ant standing tall issuing commands. The queen lays eggs, yes, and her presence influences the colony through pheromones, but she does not instruct. The rhythm of the colony is emergent, rising from the countless small decisions of its members. Each ant responds to what is directly around her, and in doing so helps steer the whole. It's a kind of magic, really. A biological symphony with no sheet music, no battle, just intuition, repetition, and shared instinct. Some researchers have even compared ant communication to the way neurons fire in the human brain. Local interactions creating global patterns. One ant touches another. That one moves. A third follows. A loop begins. Over time, trails emerge, nests are chosen, resources gathered. The colony thinks not with thoughts, but with patterns, not with words, but with the quiet power of connection. In this way, they remind us that intelligence is not always loud or visible. Sometimes it hums just below the surface, patient and steady, like roots growing beneath a field. It's humbling, really, to think that such a sophisticated society could emerge from such tiny minds, that a creature no larger than a grain of rice could participate in a system of such elegance. And perhaps, in watching them, we remember something we've forgotten, that communication doesn't always require words. That understanding can rise from contact, from presence, from shared purpose. To lie in the grass on a summer afternoon and watch ants at work is to see a language older than speech. It is to witness meaning stitched into motion, decision folded into instinct, and in their trails, their signals, their living bridges and silent rafts, we are reminded that connection is not just a human thing, it is a living thing, something the earth itself has whispered into every species, in every age, and in the hush of night, when the world grows still, the scent of thought drifts softly beneath the stars, and the ants are still speaking. Beneath the moss and soil, under our feet and the forest floor, lie entire cities we cannot see. Quiet cathedrals of earth and shadow, dug not by machines, nor designed with blueprints, but sculpted patiently, instinctively, by creatures no larger than a comma on a page. These are the hidden kingdoms of the ants, vast living labyrinths folded into the dark, where walls breathe and chambers hum with life. If you could peel back the skin of the earth like a page from a book, you'd find them there, quietly pulsing with purpose, deep-rooted colonies shaped by feel, by touch, by ancestral memory. One species might dig a dozen rooms, cozy and round, arranged like pearls on a string. Another might carve long corridors that spiral downward, deeper and deeper, coiling into the cool safety of underground calm. In the leafcutter's world, the nest is a metropolis, with hundreds of chambers, some for fungus farming, others for nurseries, waste disposal or rest. The walls are smoothed by thousands of passing feet. The tunnels are measured by jaw and instinct, and ventilated not with machines, but by shape alone, shaped so cleverly that air moves without sound like breath through a reed. These nests are not chaos. They are architecture, elegant, purposeful, alive. The ants, though blind to blueprints, are engineers nonetheless, guided by tiny cues, by air currents and scent gradients, by the slightest hint of moisture or warmth in the soil. They carve spaces where none existed. They make homes where there was once only dirt. And every chamber, every tunnel, serves a role in the living rhythm of the colony. Some ants build upward, not just down. In the tropical savannas of Africa and Australia, towering mounds rise like miniature mountains, spires of baked soil shaped by millions of jaws. Termites, close cousins of ants, are especially famous for these constructions, though some ants build them too. These are not just heaps of dirt, they are skyscrapers of precision, shaped to catch the wind and funnel it downward, creating internal breezes that cool the nest below. Some are so perfectly ventilated that they keep a stable temperature inside even when the sun above scorches or the rains pour in waves. The tallest mounds can reach up to 10 feet, taller than a grown man, and yet they are built grain by grain, in silence over months and years. Imagine a child building a sandcastle not with hands but with her eyelashes. Now multiply that patience by 1,000. That is the art of the ant. Inside these structures, life hums. Ants move along pathways polished by generations, carrying food, eggs, or soil. The fungus chambers are humid and fragrant, warm like greenhouses. The nurseries are gentle and clean. Waste chambers are kept distant, always downwind. There are even ventilation shafts and side tunnels that act like pressure valves, adjusting airflow as the colony grows. Some species raise aphids or mealybugs in cosy side rooms, like farmers tending livestock, harvesting honeydew for their kin. Others store seeds in dry, well-aerated spaces, careful not to let them sprout too soon. The whole city breathes and works as one, not just shelter but society. And what's most astonishing is how this is done without eyes to see the whole, without leaders to oversee construction. Each ant knows only her task. She might carry a single grain of soil from one chamber to another. She might scrape at a wall until it feels right beneath her legs. And yet, out of this chorus of tiny, simple acts emerges something vast and ordered, as if the nest itself were dreaming itself into being, through the legs and jaws of its builders. This kind of emergence, where simple rules create complex systems, is one of nature's quietest wonders. It shows us that you don't need brilliance to build beauty, you only need harmony. When scientists pour plaster or molten metal into abandoned nests to study their shape, the result is breathtaking. What emerges from the earth looks like coral or sculpture, a sprawling network of chambers and bridges, some stretching meters underground. In one famous case, researchers poured over 10 tons of cement into a single colony in Brazil. When the earth was excavated, it revealed a subterranean city so intricate, so delicately constructed, that it left the scientists in stunned silence. Thousands of interconnected rooms, highways of soil, vent shafts angled just so. It was as though they'd unearthed the blueprint of an ancient civilization, but no architects had drawn it. No tools had shaped it. It had been built entirely by touch, by instinct, and by the soft murmur of shared purpose. Some ants even shape their nests based on the stars, aligning entrances with the path of the sun to help regulate temperature. Others build rafts, floating nests made entirely of their own bodies, tethered together during floods, forming a shelter that breathes and floats and shifts with the current. In the trees, arboreal ants stitch leaves together, using silk spun by their larvae, creating leafy chambers suspended in the canopy. The workers hold the leaves in place while the larvae are moved like living glue guns, stitching the edges shut. These leafy homes sway in the wind, green and hidden, like little hammocks of civilization hung beneath the scum. But perhaps the most mysterious nests are those we never see, the hidden chambers within hollow branches, under stones, or inside rotting logs. These are quiet places, secret and soft, known only to the ants who live there. Some species will move frequently, creating temporary camps that can be set up and dismantled in a single day. Others remain in the same nest for decades, expanding slowly as the queen lays her eggs and new generations take up the work. There are even species that live entirely within a single acacia tree, defending it from herbivores in exchange for shelter and nectar. A living trade agreement between tree and insect, built not on words, but on generations of mutual trust. The soil itself becomes different where ants dig. It is turned and aerated like a farmer's plough. It becomes richer, more alive. Seeds dropped by the workers sprout in new places. Fungi spread through the loosened earth. Water flows differently, finding new paths through the softened ground. In this way, the ants do more than build. They shape the land. They change the microclimate. They give other creatures space to grow. And when their nests are abandoned, they become homes for others, beetles, worms, even tiny snakes. The city lives on even after the builders are gone. In deserts, where the heat is harsh and the Soil is dry. Some ants have evolved nests that reach deep below the surface, tapping into the cooler layers of earth. Others build flat, low mounds that reflect sunlight, or use small stones to shade their entrances. Every nest is an answer, a quiet response to the land's questions. In the forest, it might be height. In the tundra, depth. In the city, a crack in a wall. Always the ants adapt. Always they build. And inside these structures, tucked in their tiny rooms, is the beating heart of the colony, the queen. Often hidden deep below, surrounded by caretakers, she lives not in luxury, but in service. Her only role is to lay eggs, thousands of them, day after day for years. She is not idle, she is tireless. Some queens live for decades, outliving their daughters and granddaughters, keeping the colony alive through drought, fire and flood. Around her, the workers feed and groom her, carry her eggs away to the nursery, clean the chamber walls, and wait. She is not their ruler, but their origin, their shared past, their beginning. And when she dies, the colony feels it, a subtle shift in chemistry, a fading of scent. Some colonies collapse, others raise a new queen. The city mourns in silence and then begins again. All of this, the planning, the labour, the maintenance, happens out of sight, in the stillness below our toes. While we walk above thinking ourselves alone, there are thousands of cities pulsing beneath us, humming with life. A single step may cover a tunnel dug last night. A garden bed might lie over a nursery. The roots of a tree might twist around a fungal farm. We live atop their world without knowing it, the way stars live above ours, distant, but always present. And so the next time you kneel to touch the earth, or sit beneath a tree whose roots run deep, pause for a moment and wonder what lives below. What soft rooms hum beneath your feet? What tiny architects are carving out new cities even now, grain by grain, in perfect silence? They do not ask for credit. They do not build for glory. They build because they must, because the instinct is older than memory, because the city is their breath, their cradle, their forever home. And in the folds of the earth, beneath stone and root, the invisible cities still grow, shaped not by hand but by hope and the quiet rhythm of belonging. In the shadowed corridors of their hidden cities where sunlight never reaches, ants have perfected a language of whispers and scents that carries more meaning than words ever could. Unlike us, they do not speak aloud. Their voices are silent, a delicate dance of chemicals and touches, vibrations and tiny gestures that weave a story known only to those who listen closely enough. Imagine, if you will, a conversation carried on the softest breeze, a message passed through a garden of invisible flowers blooming with scents. This is the secret world of ant communication, a world so subtle and intricate that it seems like magic. When an ant sets out from her nest, her antennae sweep the air like tiny painters, catching invisible colours of pheromones left by others, messages left as footprints, delicate trails that tell of food found, dangers near, or the way home. These chemical trails are not static. They fade like whispered secrets or grow stronger with time, guiding countless workers in a silent symphony of cooperation. The scent of a fallen foe might spread like warning smoke through the colony's veins, calling defenders to arms, while the perfume of a new queen's presence can ripple through the nest, changing the mood, the text, the very rhythm of life. Ants also talk with their bodies. When one encounters another, antennae meet like hands in greeting, exchanging information in a dance of touch and taste. Sometimes, ants drum their legs against the ground or vibrate their bodies to send signals through the earth, a language felt rather than heard, a song carried in the trembling soil. This communication is not merely practical, it is deeply emotional, ancient, a language born from millions of years of living together in the same dark space. Through it, the colony breathes as one, a single organism made up of many, all connected by invisible threads. Scientists have marvelled at how ants use these signals to organise their societies, coordinate hunts, and even make collective decisions, choosing new homes or mobilising defences in perfect harmony. They can recognise nestmates from strangers, track the health of their queen, and balance labour with such precision that the colony's needs are always met without confusion or command. It is a language built on trust, on instinct, and on shared purpose, where every signal matters and every silence speaks. And as we listen quietly to this whispered world, we begin to understand something profound. Communication is not just about words, but about connection, a feeling that lives in the spaces between, in the pauses and the scents, and the soft, knowing touches of antennae. It reminds us that sometimes the deepest conversations happen without sound, and that the truest stories are those written not in ink, but in the quiet bonds that hold us all together. And so, as the night deepens and the world falls into a soft hush, the ants continue their silent talks beneath the earth, weaving tales of survival and kinship, of loss and hope, whispers in the dark carried on the breath of the earth itself. Every day, as dawn gently touches the earth, tiny explorers set out on journeys as old as the hills themselves, wandering adventurers guided by instinct, scent, and the quiet promise of discovery. Ants are not content to simply remain within the walls of their hidden cities. Instead, they embark on expeditions that wind like ribbons through grasses, across leaves, and beneath twinkling stars. These journeys are slow dances with the world, filled with curious pauses, gentle touches, and the soft excitement of new places unfolding beneath their feet. The world beyond the nest is vast and mysterious to an ant's eye, a forest of towering blades of grass, sparkling droplets of dew like tiny jewels, and the flutter of wings from creatures both friend and foe. Yet for these little wanderers, every step is measured, every scent carefully noted and shared upon return. The path of an ant scout is both map and story, a living tapestry woven with each grain of soil brushed aside and every whisper of wind felt on delicate antennae. Scouts use their keen senses to search for food, water, and new homes, their movements sometimes slow and cautious, other times quick with the thrill of a fresh find. When a scout discovers a feast of fallen fruit or a hidden cache of seeds, she leaves behind a scented trail, a fragrant thread leading her sisters back like a glowing thread through a dark forest. These trails are fragile and fleeting, changing with the breeze and the passage of time, but they guide the colony's lifeblood, pulsing with the urgency of need and the comfort of home. Beyond food, exploration means survival. Some ants travel hundreds of meters, a vast journey for such tiny legs, to find safer ground during floods or fires. Others seek fresh soil to expand their cities, probing the earth like curious fingers. Through this endless wandering, ants learn the shape of their world, its dangers and gifts, and weave this knowledge into the shared memory of the colony. The exploration is never lonely, for every journey is connected to the others by invisible threads, trails of scent, moments of touch, and the ever-present hum of community. Even when the world feels vast and unknown, the ants are never truly alone. They carry the pulse of home within them, a steady heartbeat that guides them back through tangled leaves and rough bark to the safety of the nest. In this way, their journeys become stories of bravery, of discovery, and of the quiet joy found in the simple act of moving through the world. Each step is a whisper, a question, a promise, as if the earth itself is speaking in a language only the smallest travellers can hear. And in the calm of evening, when the sky blushes pink and stars begin to twinkle softly, the scouts return, their paths woven with the gentle light of dusk, their tiny bodies tired but full of the day's quiet wonders. The colony listens, breathes, and grows stronger, carried forward by the endless dance of exploration. Because for ants, the journey is never just about destination. It is about connection, about belonging, about the timeless dance between curiosity and home. And as we lie beneath the stars, our hearts slow and our thoughts drift, we too can feel the call to wander, to discover the hidden wonders around us in the soft embrace of night and earth. In that stillness, we share a quiet kinship with the smallest explorers, the ants, who carry their worlds on legs no bigger than a whisper, forever wandering, forever home. In the hush of the forest floor and the silent stretches of desert sands, ants quietly carry the weight of worlds upon their tiny shoulders. Though invisible to most, these small creatures shape entire ecosystems in ways both profound and gentle, weaving a tapestry of life that stretches far beyond their miniature bodies. Their presence is like the soft murmur of a stream beneath the noise of the world, but more subtle, persistent, and endlessly vital. Ants are gardeners of the soil, turning earth with the steady rhythm of their legs, aerating the ground so that roots may breathe and seeds may sprout. With each tunnel dug and chamber built, they open new pathways for water and nutrients to flow, nourishing the hidden underworld beneath our feet. Their nests become fertile islands where fungi grow, microbes thrive, and the cycle of life hums quietly forward. Some ants are farmers themselves, tending delicate fungal gardens with care and precision, cultivating food from the earth in ways that echo the oldest human traditions. These fungal farms are not just sustenance. They are tiny kingdoms of cooperation, where ants and fungus grow intertwined, each relying on the other in a dance as ancient as time. Beyond farming, ants play the role of seed dispersers, carrying the future of forests in their jaws. Many plants have evolved fruits and seeds designed to attract ants, wrapping their precious cargo in tasty coatings to be carried away and planted in new fertile ground. This quiet partnership between plant and insect shapes the very shape of forests, meadows, and deserts, a slow and patient gardening on the scale of entire landscapes. In deserts, ants are architects of survival, scavenging the scarce drops of food left by other creatures, recycling nutrients, and cleaning the soil of decay. Their foraging is a silent service, preventing rot from taking hold and keeping the land fresh and alive beneath the sun's fierce gaze. And where ants thrive, so too do countless other creatures, beetles, spiders, and tiny reptiles that find shelter in abandoned nests or ride along in search of crumbs. Ants create a web of life so delicate and strong that to disturb one thread is to ripple through the entire network. Yet even with such influence, ants remain humble workers of the earth, unaware of the grandeur of their impact. They do not seek praise or recognition. Their work is instinctual, born from eons of evolution and the deep memory of survival. Their quiet power lies in numbers, in cooperation, in the endless repetition of small acts that, together, build and maintain the world we walk upon. Scientists now recognize ants as keystone species, essential pillars in ecosystems that hold balance and diversity. Protecting ants means protecting whole forests and grasslands, the flow of water and nutrients, and the countless other lives that depend on them. In a world changing faster than ever before, understanding the role of ants offers us hope, a reminder that even the smallest beings have a voice in the story of life, and that by caring for the quiet workers beneath our feet, we care for the planet itself. As twilight deepens and the stars begin their slow dance across the sky, we can imagine the gentle hum of ant cities beneath the earth, each colony a pulse in the heartbeat of the planet. In their quiet, steady way, ants guard the soil, the seeds, and the future. They teach us that strength comes not just from size or speed, but from connection and persistence, from working together in harmony with the world. And so, as sleep draws near and the night folds its velvet arms around us, we can rest easy knowing that beneath the surface the guardians of the earth carry on, small, tireless, and endlessly wise, whispering secrets of life and renewal in the soft language of soil and scent. Beneath our feet, hidden from the busy eyes of the world above, there exists a realm shaped by tiny architects who work with patience and precision older than any stone. Ants, with their delicate jaws and tireless legs, sculpt the earth into complex labyrinths, homes that breathe and grow, places filled with air and secrets, tunnels and chambers that hum with life. Imagine a city not made of glass or steel, but carved from soil and woven with roots, alive and shifting like a living thing. These underground kingdoms are marvels of natural engineering, built without blueprints or rulers, yet with a harmony that rivals the greatest human designs. Each tunnel is a soft whisper in the soil, a gentle curve crafted to move air and water through the nest, cooling it in the heat of summer and sheltering it in the chill of winter. Chambers open like secret rooms, each with its purpose. Nurseries where tiny eggs rest in quiet cradles of warmth, granaries where food is stored carefully against hungry times, and halls where workers meet and share the pulse of the colony's heart. The walls themselves are alive with texture, lined with tiny grains and coated with secret chemicals that protect against invaders and keep the air fresh. Some species of ants go beyond the earth, building towering nests of twigs, leaves, and resin, structures that sway gently in the breeze and stand strong against storms. These living skyscrapers are not just homes, but fortresses and farms, shelters where generations are born and raised beneath the sky. The architecture of ants is a story written in cooperation, each worker contributing a small piece to a grand design without knowing the full picture. They carry soil and leaf fragments like artists with their brushes, shaping the nest with instinct and teamwork. No single ant commands the building. Instead, the colony moves as one, each act of digging and hauling a note in a silent symphony. This ancient craftsmanship is not just about shelter, it is about community, survival, and the invisible ties that bind the colony together. The nests are places where generations overlap, where time folds softly, and the past and future meet. Inside these tunnels, life unfolds in rhythms as old as the earth. The slow growth of larvae, the steady hum of workers moving food and care, the quiet moments when the queen rests, surrounded by her daughters. The architecture is alive with history, a living record of the colony's journey, shaped by seasons, dangers, and the constant dance with the environment. Some ants build with materials from their surroundings, using leaves stitched together with silk from their own bodies, or even resin gathered from trees, sticky and strong. Others farm fungus inside their nests, creating gardens tended with the devotion of a gardener, nurturing a delicate partner that feeds the colony in return. This partnership is a dance of life, a shared creation of earth and living threads, where architecture becomes not just a home, but a vibrant ecosystem within an ecosystem. Scientists studying these structures often find themselves humbled by the complexity and elegance of such tiny builders whose nests balance air, moisture, and temperature with a wisdom born from millions of years of trial and error. It reminds us that nature's designs often surpass human understanding, woven not from plans or drawings but from instinct and the quiet conversations of many small hands. The architecture of ants is a testament to the power of unity, where countless tiny efforts combine to create something greater than the sum of its parts, a home that shelters dreams, work, and the endless story of life. And as we close our eyes, drifting gently towards sleep, we can imagine these ancient architects working silently beneath us, their tunnels a soft labyrinth of shadows and light, their nests a heart beating quietly in the soil. In their tireless building there is a whisper of eternity, a gentle reminder that even the smallest creatures carry within them the power to shape the world, one grain of earth at a time. Beneath the soft carpet of leaves tucked under roots and nestled deep in the earth lie the hidden empires of ants, vast kingdoms invisible to the casual eye, yet brimming with life, history, and quiet power. These underground realms are more than just homes. They are the heartbeats of beacon societies, shaped not by kings or queens alone, but by the countless tireless workers who form the very soul of the colony. Imagine wandering through a city that stretches for miles, a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers carved out with precision and care, where every passage hums with the rhythm of tiny footsteps and the gentle rustle of antennae touching in greeting. Each nest is a universe of its own, filled with stories written in the soft earth, tales of survival, cooperation, and the ceaseless dance between life and environment. The queen, often hidden deep within the nest, is the heart of this empire. Her presence felt more in the colony's steady pulse than in any grand gesture. She is the silent mother, laying thousands of eggs that will grow into the workers, soldiers, and future queens who keep the colony alive. Around her, generations intertwine in a dance as old as time, each ant playing its part in the endless cycle of birth, work, and renewal. But the empire is not ruled by one alone. It is a democracy of instinct and chemical signals, a society where decisions emerge from the collective wisdom of many small minds. Ants communicate through whispers of scent, vibrations, and delicate touches, a language so subtle it feels like a secret song shared beneath the earth. This communication guides everything from foraging expeditions to defense strategies, shaping the colony's fate in ways both practical and profound. Their societies are built on cooperation, with no room for ego or ambition. Every ant's work, no matter how small, is vital. The soldiers guard the borders like silent sentinels, ever watchful for intruders, while the workers tend to the young and maintain the nest's complex infrastructure. Together they build a community that breathes as one, an empire where the whole is far greater than the sum of its parts. These hidden kingdoms also shape the world beyond their walls. Through their tunneling, ants aerate the soil, creating pockets that allow water and air to reach deep roots, They recycle nutrients by feeding on decaying matter and prey, keeping the ecosystem balanced and healthy. Many plants rely on ants to disperse their seeds, a slow partnership that has evolved over millions of years, binding the fate of forest and insect in silent agreement. In deserts, ant colonies are lifelines, recycling scarce resources and building nests that protect their inhabitants from the harsh sun. Their empires are a testament to resilience and harmony, a quiet force that sustains life in places where survival seems impossible. Scientists exploring these underground worlds often speak of the awe they feel, discovering tunnels that stretch like veins beneath the earth, chambers lined with fungal gardens, and the intricate social systems that mirror the complexity of human cities. But unlike our own bustling metropolises, ant empires pulse with a gentle rhythm, a quiet order born not of competition, but of shared purpose. This balance is delicate and fragile, shaped by the ever-changing dance of nature's cycles. Floods may wash away tunnels, predators may threaten the colony's safety, and seasons shift the availability of food and shelter. Yet through all this, the ants endure, rebuilding and adapting with a patience that feels almost sacred. Their hidden empires teach us about the power of community and the strength found in unity. They remind us that even the smallest beings can carry the weight of worlds, and that in working together, we find not just survival, but a deeper meaning, a connection to something ancient and vast. And so, as night deepens and stars scatter like whispers across the sky, we can imagine these empires beneath us, alive, vibrant and eternal. The ants carry on, weaving their stories in the soil, guardians of secrets that stretch back through time, silent keepers of a world within a world. Their kingdoms invite us to look closer, to listen softly, and to remember that beneath the surface of all things lies a hidden life, delicate yet strong, quiet yet unyielding, forever whispering the timeless song of existence. In the stillness of a quiet evening, as the world softens and the stars begin their slow, tender dance across the velvet sky, there lies a gentle wisdom, whispered from the smallest corners of the earth, from the tireless tiny lives of ants. These ancient creatures, with legs no thicker than a thread, and hearts beating with the rhythm of a hidden drum, carry within them lessons older than any story told around a fire. Their lives, woven together, in colonies that pulse with shared purpose and quiet devotion, offer us a mirror to reflect upon the deeper meaning of connection, resilience, and belonging. Watching ants, one begins to understand that greatness is not measured in size or noise, but in the persistent grace of everyday acts. The careful tending of young, the humble gathering of crumbs, the delicate dance of cooperation that sustains the whole. They remind us that in the smallest gestures lie the seeds of strength, and in quiet teamwork the power to build worlds. Each ant moves with a purpose, guided by instinct and an unspoken loyalty to the colony, yet they do not boast or seek glory. Their work is its own reward. A steady pulse that beats beneath the chaos of life, a rhythm that sustains generations unseen and unheard. Through their endless journeys, we learn about courage, the courage to explore new paths, to face unknown dangers, and to carry burdens many times their weight without complaint. Their exploration is gentle yet determined, a slow unfolding of discovery that teaches patience and the beauty of curiosity. In their architecture, we find lessons in harmony, how individual efforts combine to create homes that breathe and grow, places of safety and nurture built not by one but by many, each contributing their small piece to a magnificent whole. Their underground cities, carved with care, teach us about balance, how to create spaces where life can flourish, where every chamber has meaning, and every tunnel a purpose. The whispered wisdom of ants also speaks of resilience, of enduring storms and seasons with quiet strength. When floods sweep away their tunnels or predators threaten their peace, ants rebuild with grace, showing us that even in the face of loss, life finds a way to persist, to heal, and to grow stronger. They teach us that survival is a shared journey, not a solitary fight, and that in community lies the greatest hope. Watching the way ants tend their fungal gardens, we see a silent celebration of cooperation across species, a reminder that all life is connected, that our fates intertwine like threads in a vast, unseen web. Their partnerships speak softly of trust, patience, and the delicate art of giving and receiving, lessons that echo deeply in the human heart. As the night deepens and the world slips gently toward rest, The story of ants lingers in the quiet spaces between thoughts, a soft song of belonging and wonder. They invite us to slow down, to notice the small miracles that surround us, to feel the pulse of life beneath the surface of things. In their humble lives we find a reflection of ourselves, seekers of home, builders of community, travellers on an endless journey. Theirs is a story without words but full of meaning, a tale told in whispers of scent and shadow, in the steady rhythm of tiny feet upon the earth. And as we drift into sleep, wrapped in the gentle embrace of night, we carry with us the secret republic of ants, a world of wonder and quiet magic that reminds us that even the smallest lives hold the greatest stories. Their wisdom, softly spoken and endlessly patient, teaches us to live with kindness, to build with care, and to move through the world with curiosity and courage. It is a lullaby for the soul, a gentle call to rest, to dream, and to remember that in every grain of earth, in every whisper of wind, the universe is quietly singing, a song of life, connection, and infinite possibility.